This is Jacob from Kinnettic Kreations, and today we have a Kawasaki Ridge we're going to do our turn signal kit on. Our kit comes with the rear harness. This plugs into the taillight on both sides of the machine so we control the brake lights. And it's got a little fuse, and we connect this to the bus bar in the dash. Comes with the front harness. This actually plugs into both headlights. We flash the little check mark shaped light in there, and then we have a connector for a side marker, and of course the horn. For our side markers, we always recommend you mount a side marker inside your machine, so that way you're seeing from all around. We have three options. We got our little 3/4 inch button. It's got 3 LEDs in it. This is the brightest one available. We got our 1.25 inch. There's 6 LEDs in there. That's pretty bright too. And then we have our little smoked one, and that one comes with 5 screws that mount this to the body, and it's got 6 LEDs in it. So they're all bright. Just pick your option. And then for controls, we have 3 toggle switches in the dash, or we have a column mounted lever. Now this lever will require you to take the steering wheel off and the cover and then cut it up to have this fit, but we'll show you how to do that. And then that comes with its own controller. So here's our little proprietary turn signal controller. Plugs into the front harness, the rear harness, and the lever. And then we do have an option for indicators mounted in dash if you want as well. Of course, comes with a horn. So we're going to start installing this kit. We're going to start on the rear of our machine. We plug right into this taillight connector on both sides. That way we can control the brake light itself. And our harness will be labeled left and right. So we'll start here on the right side. And you want to unplug this. There's a little clip you push in and unplug it. It is tricky. These connectors are more difficult to unplug than other ones, so just using your finger might not depress it enough. So if you can't get it out, just push right here and pull it out. We will plug this into here and this into here. And then we'll zip tie this up later on. You can drill a hole if you want and clip this to the body, but you don't have to. So we'll end up zip tying that there. And then what we're doing is we're zip tying it and following the main harness. Now it's time to start routing this. We'll want it underneath the frame rail. Now our harness, the way we route it with the factory one. Factory one goes underneath here. And then we route it along the top here to get to the other side. The main part of the harness going up front will pass down here, because at the bottom on this left side of the machine are all the e-brake cables, and that's what will follow up front. Let's get it down across the engine here. So you want your split somewhere here on the throttle body. Same thing over here. We'll get this unplugged. Alright, so we're done in the back here. I'll go inside, and we need to route the harness through here and up here, so we gotta get all this stuff out of the middle. First, look at the center console out of the way. If you just grab in the back and yank, this whole middle piece pops right out. Next, we'll get out the cup holders. It's got 2 quick rivets up here. And down here, there are 2 Phillips screws. Now when you get off this part, this has 11 total of these quick rivets. There's 4 on top. And you have 1 that's vertical right over here. And on either side, there's 3 more. And also in the middle here, there's a cubby. Splits up in the front. It's got one of these little white tabs. Now we gotta get our center panel out. There's 6 of those little white tabs in there. There's 2 here, 1 here, 1 over here, and then 2 down here. And those angle down, so you want to grab it and pull out. You got those 2. 1 there. 1 here. And if you have anything plugged in, you want to unplug it now. We got the auxiliary port. And this one has 2 switches because we've already put a front light bar and then a backup light bar work light on the back. If you get the option with switches, you'll cut these out with a razor blade. Just follow the small holes. The tall ones are for different style switch, but our switches will snap right in them. Alright, we're going to work on taking the steering wheel off of this Kawasaki Ridge. It's actually a lot easier than you'd think it would be. First, this piece pops out. It goes straight out towards you. So pry in the edges. There's 10 of these little tabs that just kind of squeeze into the rubber. Then we have the center nut, which takes a 3/4 or 19mm socket. What you want to do before you pop the steering wheel off, draw straight across with a Sharpie to help line this up. Because the steering wheel actually just pops right off. So you want those lines to help get it right. And later on when you put it back on, if you want, you can drive and see how crooked it is, because you can move it 1 tooth at a time in either direction. So now that's off. We'll pop this steering wheel column cover off. We got one of these itty bitty push rivets. I seem to like those. And then there's one right here and right here. you'll have to wiggle it over. There you go, twist it. So to get it on and off, you gotta twist it so the slot goes past that. Got 12mm socket on the left, 13 on the right. We'll pop the first nut all the way off. There's another nut. We'll pop that off. I'll remove the bolt. You might have to unthread it most of the way. Inside there you have a spacer, which will be on the left side, and there is another nut that's on the right side. So now we'll put our lever on. Put our cord into the dash for now. Now as we put it back together, you need bolt, R bracket, factory column. You want the spacer. Next you'll go through the gas strut. And you want to get this nut lined up. And as the bolt starts to come out this side, we want to lift our bracket up as we put this first nut underneath the bracket. I want the bolt tight first. Then you can add this other nut. Now the first nut has a little cone on it. This receives that, and our bracket has a larger hole for that cone to go in. Now that your bracket's on there, you can either leave this off or we can cut it. Now we'll have to notch a big chunk out of it. We'll take a little bit out of here so we can stretch this and go over it. So here's about the shape I'll try. Once I get this dialed in, I'll make a template for everybody. So maybe we'll cut this out. We'll cut off wheel and we'll make her fit. So you're able to cut this out. We trim this part open, and then obviously this section, this fits around the lever nicely. So what we'll do is you gotta make sure this part gets behind your release lever. Once you get it all set on there right, there's little rivets. Should go right in. Might be easier to pull it out all the way. And then steering wheel back on. Get your lines lined up. Like I said, if you want and you're not sure if it's straight, you can go out, hold your steering wheel straight, and see if your machine drives a straight line, and then just pop it off and rotate it one slot at a time. And once that's tight, you get all of these lined back up. There we go. Now here's our lever. So yeah, still got plenty of room to hit high and low beam. Most people won't drive it so far down. Plenty of room. Alright, we got our lever installed and cover back on. This cable we shoved in there, we'll want to fish that out. We'll want to feed this to the right. You want to make sure it doesn't hit anything that moves. So the things that move in here, obviously the shifter, the steering column, and this e-brake lever. You can reach up underneath the dash here, get the cable, and shoot it out over here. So now we have our lever cable here. Next we'll run our rear harness forward. Here's your air filter. Underneath here is where the e-brake cables go. So we're able to fish our rear harness forward. We'll reach down there and zip tie it in a little bit. And now we'll want to get it routed up with the e-brake cables and put it in a similar area as this lever. There's a bus bar in here, so you pop right here, it comes out. There's a red cable and a black cable going to this bus bar. So you'll pass this across. And you'll want to hook these up. You need a 3A socket to get these nuts off. We get a peek in here. Here's a ground stud and a battery positive stud. It's actually ignition. So with the key off, there's no power there. You don't have to worry about arcing or anything. And then we'll just got our little fuse. We tuck that in there. We'll zip tie all this up nicely later. And we got our little relay box for our light bars in there too. We got this run up here. We'll zip tie that to the cables. And we'll zip tie all this stuff here in when we're done. So we got our lever run and our rear harness. Then we gotta do the front. Okay, get your hood off. Just flip those, lift up, and pull out. It does have these tabs, so if you lift up on the front, you can snap those off. Now we're gonna pop off both of these fenders here. On this side, there's a nice cavity to hide the horn. They obviously don't give you much room up in here to do much of anything. We're going to take these 4 rivets out first. And then up underneath here, right here, and right here. There's 2 of these little ones. A little trickier to get underneath because they got a different shaped head. But they come out the same. And then behind here, right here, and right here, there's 2 more of those little guys. 2 more of those. And on this back corner here, you pull out 2 spots. There you go. So you have 2 of these little white clips and 2 of these. So you gotta pull out and out, and this pops off. So we have 4 big, 4 little. Pull out, 1, 2, and then up, 1, 2. She's off. We got 4 little holes here. So these holes are just plastic, they're not threaded. What you can do is you can take, this is an M6 bolt, but a 1/4 20 will work. Self tappers, whatever you want. we'll send it down in there. The front harness, this main trunk's quite long, so you can go through and down. And then on the right side, it's quite short, so it all mounts over here. And this left side passes across the machine. This goes your left headlight, your left side marker, and the horn. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take apart all these pop rivets to get this front out. You won't be able to take it off easily. This whole front clip goes all the way down to here, and it's got the contactor for the winch on it if you have a winch. This one doesn't. It's got a bus bar for the battery cables. There's a whole bunch of stuff on it, and it's really not worth taking all the way off. You can if you want, but we're just going to loosen it. So now we're able to lift up on this a little bit, and we can pass our harness under it. Run our harness underneath this hose to the right. We've already removed 13 of those quick rivets, and we didn't gain much. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff holding it on, and it's not really worth it. So just put this up underneath everything. Pass that on the headlight. It's right here. There's a little gap. You can pass the horn harness up, and the rest of it goes down here by the headlight. Now we're down here under the headlight. We pass our harness. You can unplug this headlight, plug it into our harness, and plug our harness into the headlight. And then the side marker one, we'll pull down here, and we'll let it run along this bar. Over here, same thing, just shorter. So shove that down there, and you want this harness to end up being right about behind this, because there's a little plug in here that will pop out. Pop this little plug out. So there's a little plug here you can pop out, a little grommet. And same thing, we'll unplug this headlight, plug our harness in the headlight, plug their harness into ours, and then we'll run this along this bar. Now we can put on our side markers. So again, for our side markers, we have our three options. We got our little 3/4 inch bullet. It requires a 3/4 inch hole, and it's got 3 LEDs in it. We got our 1.25 inch. It's got 6 LEDs in it, and it uses the same 3/4 inch hole. And we got our smoke light. Got 6 LEDs in there, and you got to drill a hole for this connector to go through, and we got screws that will just drill right in there on their own. This only requires about a 5/8 because it only has to pass the connector through it. We like doing our smoked one right here, but you can do a round one right here. You can put it back here, wherever you want, as long as on the back side when you drill a hole, you're not going to hit anything. And on this machine, actually, this whole side is fair game. So you're going to try to center it between these 2 points. So you're at 9.5. So 4 3/4 over from this to here would be the center. And it's 2 inches tall, so we'll go 1 inch down, and then from this corner over, 5/8 hole. We like these step drills. They bore a nice concentric hole through. If you use a regular twist drill in plastic, it can grab. So what I really want to do is push this connector through. We include 5 of these screws in case you drop one. Let's go down here. We'll plug this in. Go to the other side. So now we're going to just push this through here for now. We do have to go inside, and we'll pop this whole panel off. So step 1, we got to get our HVAC controls out of the way. So there's 5 of these holding it on. All we need to do is get that out of the way to get to this pop rivet here. We got a pop rivet here. Inside here there's 2. On the side right here there's 1 more. If you go in here, there's a Phillips screw. Now these next 3 screws will all have a little shoulder sleeve or spacer on them. Don't lose that. 1, 2 more. Now once you get all the hardware out, up here in this corner is one of those white clips. So if there's a little slot here, you can stick your finger and just pull straight towards you. That'll pop it out. Auxiliary port is plugged in. There's a connector for this LED mood light or whatever it is. You just push on the clip there. It's like just like the taillight connectors. It's the same series. The reason we do that is because right here is another one of these. So that's right here. This one's already removed because we have our light bar harness going through it. Now if you're lucky, your connector you shove through from the front is sitting right there. Luckily on this machine you can reach the front and inside through the window. What I do is wiggle it from the front until the connector is by the hole, and I use my finger to guide it out the hole. I'll pass this down here. We'll tuck it down below all this. It ends up in the same vicinity as our rear harness, our front harness, and our lever. If you're not doing a lever and you're doing switches, right here, if you wouldn't have a lever, you would just take the module with the switches and plug it in. And now you have your 2 options. Plug in our front and our rear harness. And then these switches, you would mount into that center console cover and put everything back together. This one will run on the lever in. So we'll do similar. We'll plug in our rear and our front. And make sure our lever's in the right area. Plug that in. Time to test it. So on ours, the side markers and this piece on the headlight come on all the time with the ignition. Taillights are on. We'll go left. Side marker flashing. When that flashes, there's your brake light flashing. We'll hit the horn and go right. And our controller does have a built-in timer. So after 45 seconds, if you have the left or the right on, it'll stop flashing. If you have the hazards on, they'll flash forever, because you don't want that canceling. This is so you don't leave your blinker on and forget about it and drive around town flashing the wrong way. There it goes. So it just defaults back to where it normally works. When you put it back to neutral, it resets the timer, and then pull this out, hazards. You can see the lever fits nice. You're not going to hit it with your door, and you still get your coffee. Hazards. Alright, so now we'll just start putting it all back together. Now when you're putting your auxiliary ports back together, you'll have a plus and a minus, and you'll have a red wire and a black wire. Make sure to put them on right. Otherwise, if you put them on wrong, they'll take it all the way apart later. Now when you're putting this on to clip this back corner in, make sure that hard duct is lined up with the middle of this, and you're good to go. When you're putting this piece back on, you got these two tubes and your two vents. They just line up and slide in there nicely. They don't snap in or anything. They just kind of rest in there. When you're putting these screws back in, your shoulder sleeve goes like that. Now the holes in the plastic will be quite a bit larger than the screw, and that's so this shoulder can go in the hole, and this presses on the steel from the dash so it doesn't pinch the plastic. So you want to wiggle the dash around while you're tightening this so that this ends up in the middle of the hole. Don't forget your plug down here for your footwell lighting. This has two tabs on it. Slide in here, and then your little clip here snaps down. There it went. When you're putting this back in, you gotta make sure you have all 6 of these white clips. Sometimes they like to rip out of here and stay in the pocket. So this one was down in that pocket. So we'll have to snap it back on here. Now if you went with the switch option, you want to make sure all your switches are plugged in. And I would hang it here, make sure everything works before you put it together. At the very bottom, this clip goes down there into a tab in the floor. And the same thing on here. There's a plus and a minus. And it's black with a brown wire. Start at the top, clip, clip. One right here, one over here. And down here you'll get these lined up. That's all back together. Our center console, you got 2 tabs here that line up with those slots. You got a slot here, tab, tab. And then these little nails line up with some rubber grommets in the back. So start up front, clear your seat belt. That snaps right in like that. We'll check our lights. and your backup light. So now we're up front underneath the right headlight. Have our side marker. We'll zip that to this bar. And we'll zip tie this headlight plug up higher so it can't hang down. Do the same thing over here. Up here with this cover, this one's already been drilled out and cut because we had that light bar harness in there for this light bar here. So I'm going to drill the hole bigger and reinstall this. This helps keep some of the water out. So got that installed, help keep some water out, and this is all routed underneath here. Snap this hose back in its track. All we gotta do is put all the quick rivets in there. We'll put all the quick rivets back in the front and put both fenders on and the hood, and we're done. I pulled out 13. Here, we'll put these on. There's a little alignment tab up front here. It clips into there. So I'm gonna put that in. I'll push it down. Line these up. In. Corner. Down. In. For the hood, you want to clip these in first. And then those should line up. So we're done. This one we did a light bar up front here. And our blinkers. Then we did a light bar up here that is a backup light and also a work light that comes on with a switch or by the machine.